Raise your hand if you've ever said these words out loud. Maybe I really am too sensitive. Maybe I do overreact to everything. Maybe I'm the problem after all. Sister, put that hand down, because what I'm about to tell you might change everything you thought you knew about yourself. You're not crazy. You're not too much. You're not the problem. You've been systematically trained to doubt your own mind. And today, we're going to unpack exactly how that happened. If you've ever felt like you're losing your grip on reality in a relationship, this conversation is for you. If you've questioned your memory, your emotions, your basic sense of right and wrong, keep listening. If you've ever walked away from an argument feeling more confused than when it started, I see you. Here's the thing nobody tells you about psychological manipulation. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not a dramatic movie scene where someone obviously tries to drive you insane. It's subtle, consistent, and so gradual that you don't notice it happening until you're already trapped inside it. Think about the last time you tried to explain to a friend why you felt hurt by something he said. Did you find yourself adding disclaimers? Maybe I'm being too sensitive, but maybe it's not that big of a deal, but maybe I'm overreacting, but those disclaimers aren't coming from nowhere. They've been programmed into you. Every time you've been told you're too emotional when you had a normal human reaction, a piece of your self-trust got chipped away. Every time your memory was questioned when you knew exactly what happened, your confidence in your own mind weakened. Every time your feelings were dismissed as dramatic or irrational, you learned to dismiss them too. This is what living with a narcissist does to your psyche. It's death by 1,000 tiny cuts to your sense of reality. Each individual incident might seem small, manageable, something you can brush off, but together they create a pattern that systematically destroys your ability to trust yourself. The scariest part? By the time you realize what's happening, you're so disconnected from your own inner voice that you can't tell what's real anymore. You start believing his version of events because yours feels too uncertain. You stop trusting your instincts because they've been wrong so many times before, according to him. But here's what I need you to understand right now before we go any deeper into this conversation. Your instincts weren't wrong. Your memory wasn't faulty. Your emotions weren't too much. Someone made you believe these things about yourself because it served their need for control. The confusion you feel isn't evidence of your mental instability. It's evidence that someone has been deliberately messing with your mind. The fact that you're questioning everything doesn't prove you're crazy. It proves that someone has been systematically undermining your relationship with your own thoughts and feelings. Today, we're going to trace exactly how this happens. We're going to look at the specific tactics, the gradual progression, and the devastating impact on your sense of self. But most importantly, we're going to start the process of helping you remember who you really are underneath all that manufactured confusion. Stay with me. This might not be easy, but it could be the conversation that finally helps you stop blaming yourself. Let me explain something that will completely shift how you understand what happened to you. Gaslighting isn't random. It's not accidental outbursts or occasional meanness. It's a systematic process designed to make you dependent on his version of reality. And once you see the blueprint, you can't unsee it. Here's how it works, step by calculated step. First, he establishes himself as the voice of reason. He's calmer than you, more logical, more rational. When you get emotional about something that hurt you, he stays perfectly composed. This creates an immediate imbalance where his perspective seems automatically more credible than yours. You start to believe that emotional equals wrong, calm equals right. Then comes the memory manipulation. It starts small, almost innocent. You're remembering that wrong. That's not what I said. You're mixing up the details. These tiny seeds of doubt about your own recollection grow over time. Soon, you're second-guessing every conversation, every interaction, every moment of tension between you. Next, he reframes your emotions as character flaws. You're not hurt, you're oversensitive. You're not concerned, you're paranoid. You're not disappointed, you're unrealistic. Every feeling you have gets relabeled as evidence of your personal problems rather than a natural response to his behavior. The redirection tactic is particularly devastating. Every time you bring up something he did that hurt you, somehow the conversation ends up being about what's wrong with you. You came to discuss his behavior, but you leave apologizing for your reaction to it. It's like magic, except the trick is being performed on your mind. He weaponizes your love for him against you. Because you care about the relationship, you want to find solutions. So when he tells you the problem is your attitude, your expectations, your way of communicating, you try to fix those things. You become obsessed with changing yourself to make the relationship work, never noticing that the relationship problems stem from his refusal to treat you with basic respect. The double bind technique keeps you constantly off balance. No matter what you do, it's wrong. Speak up about problems, and you're nagging. Stay quiet, and you're being passive-aggressive. Show emotion, and you're unstable. Stay calm, and you're cold or disconnected. There's no right way to be because the system is designed to keep you perpetually in the wrong. Isolation amplifies all of these tactics. He subtly discourages you from talking to friends and family about relationship issues. Your friends don't understand our dynamic. Your mom has never liked me anyway. Your sister's just trying to cause drama. Slowly, you lose access to outside perspectives that might validate your reality or point out the dysfunction you can no longer see clearly. The genius of this whole system is that it makes you complicit in your own confusion. You start policing your own thoughts and feelings before he even has to. You dismiss your own concerns as silly. You talk yourself out of your own hurt. You become so afraid of being called crazy that you act crazy trying to prove you're not. By the time this blueprint is fully implemented, you no longer trust yourself enough to question his behavior. Your inner voice, your intuition, your emotional intelligence, all of it gets drowned out by his constant messaging about who you are and what your problems are. But recognizing the blueprint is the first step to breaking free from it. Let me tell you about Sarah. Not her real name, but her story might feel like looking in a mirror. Sarah came to me after 3 years of marriage, saying something that absolutely broke my heart. I don't trust my own memory anymore. Those 7 words contained a world of pain that I want to help you understand. Here's what had been happening to Sarah, and maybe to you too. Every argument, her husband would flat out deny saying things she clearly remembered, not just interpret them differently or claim he meant something else. Completely deny that certain conversations ever happened. When she'd bring up hurtful comments from the night before, he'd look at her with genuine confusion and say, "You're imagining things. We never talked about that." Every hurt feeling got immediately explained away. When she felt dismissed or ignored, he'd tell her why she was wrong to feel that way. "You're taking this too personally. You're reading into things that aren't there. You're creating problems where none exist." Her emotions became evidence of her dysfunction rather than information about her experience. Every concern she raised got flipped back onto her character. When she noticed him becoming increasingly critical and distant and tried to talk about it, he'd respond with, "This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're so needy and insecure. You can't just let me be myself without turning it into some big relationship crisis." Here's a specific example that shows how insidious this process becomes. Sarah confronted him about inappropriate text exchanges with a female coworker that she'd accidentally seen on his phone. His response? "You went through my phone? That's a complete violation of privacy. You're so insecure and controlling. This is why I can't stand being around you sometimes. I was just being friendly and you're turning it into some big cheating scandal because you don't trust me." Notice what happened there. Her legitimate concern about boundary-crossing behavior became evidence of her personal flaws. Her reasonable request for transparency became proof of her controlling nature. The original issue, his inappropriate communication with another woman, completely disappeared from the conversation. This pattern repeated hundreds of times over 3 years. By month 6, Sarah was apologizing for bringing up things that hurt her instead of expecting him to care about her pain. By year 2, she stopped bringing up concerns at all because every conversation left her feeling worse about herself. By year 3, she genuinely believed she was the unstable, paranoid, oversensitive partner in the relationship. The memory manipulation was particularly cruel. Sarah started keeping a journal because she was so confused about what was actually happening between them. But even then, she'd write entries like, "Maybe I'm remembering this wrong," or "Maybe I was being too sensitive when this happened." Even in her private thoughts, his voice had become louder than her own. The most devastating part? Sarah began to gaslight herself. She'd have a gut feeling that something was off, then immediately talk herself out of it. She'd notice red flags, then explain them away before anyone else even had to. She became so afraid of being called crazy that she dismissed her own valid perceptions as paranoia. This is what psychological manipulation does to your relationship with reality. It doesn't just make you doubt specific incidents, it makes you doubt your fundamental ability to accurately perceive and interpret your own experiences. Your memory becomes the enemy instead of the reliable witness it's supposed to be. Here's another piece of this psychological puzzle that might feel painfully familiar. You start changing your entire way of being to avoid his unpredictable reactions. Not because you've done anything wrong, but because you've learned that certain topics, certain tones, even certain facial expressions will trigger his anger, his coldness, or his criticism. Let me paint you a picture of what this looks like in real life. Jessica told me about the morning routine that became her emotional prison. She'd wake up and immediately start scanning his energy, trying to read his mood before she even said good morning. Was today going to be one of his distant days, his critical days, his explosive days? She'd adjust her entire personality accordingly. Too happy and energetic, he'd accuse her of being fake, manic, or trying too hard. Too quiet and reserved, she was being passive-aggressive, sulking, or bringing down the mood. Too talkative, she was annoying and needy. Too focused on her own things, she was selfish and disconnected from the relationship. The impossible standard became clear. She needed to be the exact right amount of everything, all the time. And that right amount changed daily, sometimes hourly, based on his needs, his moods, his stress levels, his random preferences that she was somehow supposed to intuit without being told. Meanwhile, he got to be however he wanted to be. Moody when he felt like it, demanding when it suited him, critical when he was frustrated, cold when he didn't feel like connecting, explosive when things didn't go his way. There were no rules for his behavior, only rules for hers. This dynamic does something devastating to your nervous system. You become hypervigilant, constantly scanning for threats that aren't physical but are equally dangerous to your emotional safety. Your body stays in a low-level state of fight or flight because you never know when the next criticism is coming or what might trigger it. You start managing his emotions instead of your own. When he's in a bad mood, you feel responsible for fixing it. When he's critical, you feel compelled to defend yourself or change whatever he's complaining about. When he withdraws, you chase him, trying to repair whatever invisible damage you've supposedly caused. The most insidious part is how normal this starts to feel. You tell yourself you're just being considerate, accommodating, supportive. You don't realize you've become a prisoner in your own life, constantly performing a version of yourself that you hope will be acceptable to him. Other people start to notice changes in you that you can't see yourself. You become quieter in groups, always checking his face before you speak. You stop expressing opinions that might conflict with his. You lose touch with your own preferences because you're so focused on anticipating and meeting his. Friends might say things like, "You seem different lately," or "You don't seem like yourself anymore." But you can't put your finger on what's changed because the transformation happens so gradually. You adapted to an abnormal situation so slowly that abnormal started feeling normal. The eggshells you're walking on aren't real obstacles. They're manufactured landmines designed to keep you focused on his comfort instead of your own well-being. The anxiety you feel isn't evidence that you're high maintenance or difficult. It's evidence that you're living with someone who has trained you to prioritize his emotional regulation over your own basic right to exist authentically. This isn't love. This isn't partnership. This is emotional hostage-taking disguised as a relationship. Now, here's where the manipulation gets truly sinister. He doesn't just want to control how you see him or how you see yourself. He wants to control how you see everything. And that means systematically cutting you off from anyone who might validate your perceptions or point out what he's doing to you. The isolation doesn't start with dramatic ultimatums or obvious controlling behavior. It starts with subtle comments designed to make you question the people who care about you most. Your friends don't really understand our relationship. They've never been in anything serious like what we have. Your sister has always been jealous of you. You know that, right? Your mom is just projecting her own failed marriage onto us. These seeds of doubt about your support system grow over time. Soon, you're seeing your loved ones through his lens instead of your own. The people who've known you longest, who supported you through everything, suddenly become unreliable sources of advice about your own life. One woman told me how her ex gradually convinced her that her own mother was toxic and manipulative. Looking back, she realized her mom was the only person consistently telling her she deserved better treatment. So, of course, she had to be eliminated from the equation. Her ex didn't forbid her from talking to her mother. He just made her feel guilty, anxious, or conflicted every time she did. The isolation isn't always obvious or dramatic. Sometimes it's just creating enough drama around your social connections that you start declining invitations to avoid the aftermath. You know that if you go out with friends, you'll come home to silent treatment, accusations, or a fight about how you don't prioritize the relationship. Sometimes it's scheduling conflicts that somehow always coincide with your important plans. "Oh, that's the night of my work thing that I really need you at? I thought we agreed we'd spend weekends together, just us." Sometimes it's emotional manipulation. "I guess I'll just stay home alone while you go have fun without me. Fine, go ahead, but don't expect me to be happy about it." The genius of this approach is that you start isolating yourself. You choose him over your friends because it's easier than dealing with the guilt, the conflict, or the subtle punishment that follows every social engagement. You tell yourself you're just prioritizing your relationship, being a good partner, choosing love. Meanwhile, your world shrinks down to just him. Your friends stop inviting you places because you've canceled so many times. Your family stops sharing concerns about your relationship because you've defended him so vigorously in the past. The people who might notice changes in you or point out red flags gradually fade from your daily life. When he becomes your primary source of feedback about reality, his version becomes the only version you hear consistently. There's no one left to say, "That doesn't sound right," or "He shouldn't talk to you that way," or "You used to be so confident and happy." The outside perspective that might help you see clearly gets systematically eliminated. This isolation serves a dual purpose. It cuts off your access to reality checks and support, but it also makes you more dependent on him for social connection, validation, and companionship. When he's your whole world, leaving him feels impossible because it would mean losing everything, not just him. The loneliness that results isn't just about missing other people, it's about missing yourself, the version of you that existed in relationship with others who saw and valued your authentic self. Beautiful soul, here's what I need you to understand with every fiber of your being. Your instincts were right. Your feelings were valid. Your memories were accurate. Your reality was real. The confusion you feel right now isn't evidence of your instability. It's evidence of psychological manipulation. The fact that you're questioning everything doesn't prove you're crazy. It proves someone has been systematically undermining your trust in yourself. Let me say this again, because I know part of you still doesn't believe it. You are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not crazy. You are not the problem. You are a woman who has survived psychological warfare, and the fact that you're still standing, still questioning, still seeking truth is a testament to your incredible strength. Here's how you start finding your way back to yourself. First, start documenting things as they happen before he has a chance to reinterpret them. Write down conversations immediately after they occur. Note your feelings in real time. When he tells you something didn't happen, you'll have your own record to reference. This isn't about building a legal case. It's about rebuilding trust in your own perceptions. Reconnect with people who knew you before this relationship. Reach out to old friends, family members, anyone who can remind you who you were when you trusted yourself. Ask them to tell you stories about the person you used to be. Let them reflect back to you the qualities and characteristics that got buried under layers of manipulation and self-doubt. Pay attention to your body's wisdom. That tight feeling in your chest when he speaks, that knot in your stomach during arguments, that sense of walking on eggshells, those aren't signs that you're anxious or unstable. Those are your intuition screaming the truth that your mind has been trained to ignore. Your body remembers what safety feels like, and it's trying to tell you that this isn't it. Stop trying to make sense of his behavior. Stop trying to figure out his motivations, his childhood trauma, his stress levels, his intentions. Stop analyzing whether you're right or wrong about specific incidents. Start asking different questions. How do I feel when I'm with this person? Do I feel safe to express my thoughts and emotions? Do I feel valued and respected? Am I walking on eggshells? Am I constantly second-guessing myself? Trust that voice inside you that's been trying to save you this whole time. She's been whispering warnings, sending up red flags, creating uncomfortable feelings in your body when things weren't right. She never stopped working on your behalf, even when you stopped listening to her. Understand that healing isn't about forgetting what happened or pretending it wasn't that bad. It's about integrating the truth of your experience and refusing to let anyone else define your reality ever again. It's about building an unshakable relationship with yourself that no external manipulation can penetrate. The woman you are underneath all this manufactured confusion is still there. She's the one who recognized something was wrong. She's the one who started asking questions. She's the one who led you to this moment of potential awakening. She's been waiting for you to remember that her perceptions matter, her feelings are valid, and her reality is the only one that truly counts in her own life. You don't need his permission to trust yourself again. You don't need his validation of your experiences. You already have everything you need to reclaim your truth. You just forgot for a while. But now you're starting to remember. Drop a comment if you've ever been told you're remembering that wrong when you knew damn well you weren't. Let's validate each other's reality in the comments below.